All right, so let's add a snare to our kick drum just to kind of even things out. So for this one, I'm going to do a little bit of layering with snares. Snares are great to layer. There's so many thousands of samples of different snares out there, and you can pretty much make anything you can think of with them. I've found a couple that have their own kind of cool properties, and I'm going to go Shift Command T or Shift Control T if you're on the PC, and I'm going to create a new MIDI track. And then I'm going to I have these two samples here, first of all. So I've got this stereo snare. You can hear that stereo information. It kind of sounds like it's coming out of the right speaker more. And then I found another one that's very stereo with the majority of it coming out of the left speaker. So you can see where this is going. I want to play both of them at once and have them fill up a fairly large chunk of the stereo spectrum. So let's go here, and I'm going to do the right one first. I'm just going to drag it in there. So we get our little trick going with the instant simpler. Now, of course, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to throw in some notes just on the two, and then I can go like this and copy it. Now, if you didn't know, what I'm doing here is I can just press the arrows up and down and it will move the loop marker back and forth. Okay, so that's really handy. And if you hold down Command or Control, you can shrink it, halve it, and double it. So now we have the typical doof chick doof chick. Right? Okay. Sound very familiar. Now, what we want to do is we want to play both these snares at once. However, we might not always want to play them at once. For those of you who don't own sampler and just have the stock live instruments, or if you don't have another sampler like Contact or one of those guys, this is a very clever way to do it. So what we'll do is we will group this again, just like we did with the kick drum. And I'm going to drop in my snare left. Now, if you look at the buttons on the top here, we've got key, velocity, chain, and hide. Chain will control if there's any MIDI at all being sent to the device on the right of it. Key is what we want to focus on, however. Key is a filter, basically, and it will filter out MIDI notes, and it will only send the MIDI note that you tell it to its corresponding device on the right. If I play, you can see I'm playing on my MIDI keyboard. Nothing, okay? So it'll only play when that green mark is underneath it. So you can see where this is going probably. I'm going to shrink this down. So it only plays it when I'm under C3. Oops. There we go. And C3 plays this at the default pitch. So I want this one to play at C3, which is correct, and then I want this one underneath it to play probably in C#3. However, it's actually playing up one. So the way you get around that is you go here and you transpose this down one. So now, if I play C#3 here, this is actually playing C3, which is the default pitch of the sample. Make sense? So now I can play them separately, both at once, and it's basically like I've got a little mini sampler that I've just made just using this key property here. So I'm going to hide this now that we know the magic behind the scenes. And I'm going to just take this and play it and program in probably just a little short pattern, maybe a little 2-4 bar pattern. So we've got our default one that we want playing just for consistency. So I can go and I can copy those notes with just your normal Control C, Command C, Control V. And then, did I get it twice? No. Copy. Right, so we've got a 4-bar loop there. All right, so super boring. So it needs a little bit of accents. So I'm going to put an accent here. I've just realized something, but it'll make more sense when you listen to this. I'm going to lower the volume. But Tim, you say, even though the volume is lowered, it still sounds the same volume to me. Well, it does, and that's because we haven't gone here and given it any velocity sensitivity. So right now, it doesn't matter if you play it at 1 or 127, it will always play at full velocity. So we can bump that up to like 90%, which means that the harder we play it, the louder it will be. Likewise, the softer you play it, the quieter it'll be. And another handy thing is if you've got 10 samples, 15, 20 samples in here, and you realize that you've just done what I've done, and you need to set the velocity for all of them, you set it for one, you right click and you say copy value to siblings. And then this one will be changed to the amount of simplers that you have in the rack. And lo and behold, it's done exactly that. So now it sets all of them to 90. So that's very, very handy, very time saving. So now if we listen to it, right? So it's a lot louder initially now. So I'm going to lower these. Actually, I'll just lower this. You can also hold down Command or Control over the note instead of dragging down here. You can shrink the velocity that way. Now, before we do any more notes, we're going to add some groove to it because right now it's super static. You could drag each note, drag them like that, make your own groove. However, there's so many default ones included, and it's so much easier just to do this. So I'm going to grab the old Notator 16C, which I understand to be the equivalent of Logic 16C. Notator was the precursor to Logic. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to drop that in there. So I'm going to open up the swirly groove pool here. You may think that it's going to give you bacon when you click it, but in fact, it actually holds all the grooves for live. And I'm going to stick quantize up 100%. So what that does is before these notes are even affected by the groove, it will quantize them automatically for me. Most of the time that works well. If there's certain things down the road where it messes up, I will create a new groove that has quantize lowered, but usually I'll leave that at 100% just to make life easier. So now, if I commit this, you can see that this note here has been pushed a little behind the beat. But now, see, instantly funky. Maybe not so much, but it does change. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and I'm going to add a little more accents, probably for this one again, a little bit quieter. Then maybe even okay, so now I've taken the other snare that's coming more out of the left channel and put it in that one. In fact, I might want to do that just for this end one here as well. Just going to copy that so I don't have to do the whole thing again because I kind of like how that's working. And do the same thing there again, just to give it a little bit of variety so it doesn't get so boring after a while. And then maybe even like a little mini fill here. Okay, so we're going to take that off record mode. And what do we want to add as far as processing? The claps are pretty much, I think, sticking out as much as they need to. The only thing I would probably do is roll off a little bit of the low end. There's a lot, you can hear it when you hit about here, and it's peaking at about 100-ish. I want to save all this low room for the kick and the bass later on. So leave that for now, and I'm going to rename this to Snare. Okay, so that's it for the snare right now. We may make some changes later on, but let's move on to something a little more percussive.